Hello, I'm William from Wusik, and I would talk about my Wusik SPX idea that I'm already working on. It's going to be an open source file format for presets and samples, and just the player is going to be closed source and paid for, and the editor is going to be free. So here we are, Wusik SPX. We have the SPX file format. That's going to be for the editor. And also there's the bundle format, which takes the sounds and saves inside the file for easy editing and loading, or for backup if you're working on something. And then the player is going to work with the Wusik SPX format. So the editor is here only to edit the files, as I wrote in here. And the interface is more oriented for that and not to play the files. So there's a preview function that works like an internal player, but using the editor interface instead. And if you load up the Wusik editor, so this is the SPX E for editor, you can see here that I have all my presets, my layers for each preset, and also have my sounds in here. So it's an editor, it's not a synth, it's not a player, it's not a sample playback plugin, but it works as a plugin too, in case you like to use your DAW to edit and save on the DAW the data. Because anything that I edit in here is going to be saved with the standalone application, and also if the plugin in the DAW, if you save as a project. It can be confusing, but if you don't want to go that far, just load up the application editor, which is this one that I loaded in here. Let me minimize this. So you can resize it if you want to any size. So let me make this very large as possible. So when you load for the first time, let me close and load again just to show up the collection details. You can always go back to the collection details by clicking on the collection name here on the top. So if I'm on the preset, it shows the preset details, and if I click on the collection, it goes back to the collection details. So let's go back to my PDF here. So the player is where you are going to load the SPX file. So it's like a sound file. So you have the project file in here on the editor. Then the editor exports the SPX file for the player, for users to load up and play. You can also have your own custom skin data files embedded in the final file. So what happens is actually very simple. The SPX file format is a collection of preset and sounds. So each preset has layers and sound links, and each sound links to a sound from the sounds list. So this way you can reuse sounds in multiple presets and also multiple layers, because you have round robin, random, key switching, and sequencing. So you can really reuse the files in very clever ways. So as I wrote in here, each preset can have multiple layers, each layer can have multiple sound links, and each sound link links to a sound from the sounds list. And each sound have multiple sound files, each with its own settings. This way you can reuse sounds in multiple presets. So let's take a look here at the editor. So I have my presets list here and my sounds list. And if I go here on my preset, the first layer, I can say here test sound 1, another sound 2. So if I go here on my sounds, I can see here the test sound 1 and another sound 2. So if I click on the preset for the test sound 1, I can hear there's no option in here, just the details of the sound, because the options is going to be here on the sounds. You can see here that sound 1. I have the tags and the name, so I can rename this for test sound. I can put a tag, let's say electro bass. So I have my tags now in there, and also have the choke group for this particular sound. So if it's going to be like a drum sound, I can set the choke groups. I'm probably going to move these for inside the sound files, but let's not bother about it right now. So I have my zones in here, so I can rezone some of the files directly in here. So let me try to edit the zones of the files. I can go here on the editor itself, or just go back to the zone. It's telling me that the sound is missing, so let's say I go here on the first sound, no file, and I'm going to load the file. I'm going to load the pink noise, and I'm going to do the second file load, and another pink noise, just to test it out. On all my layers it's showing correctly, and just this guy is not correct yet. Okay, now I have all my sound zones in here, and I can resize and put anywhere I want. Adjust the velocity of the sound zone, the low key and the high key. If I right click, I can edit and change the root key too. So that's pretty much for the sound settings. So if I go into the sound settings, I can have multiple sounds. So in this sound here, another sound 2. Let's call this 8 channels. So it's going to be 8 channels, and if I edit the sound, I can see a preview of the waveform, some information about it. So it's a 300 seconds file. It has a size of 300 megabytes, and I can adjust the volume, the panning, the coarse tuning. I made a mistake here. Should be fine tuning here. I'm going to fix on the code. I can select if I want to be reverse or a release sample. So a sample that only plays on the note release. Then I have some loop information. In this case, the sample has no loops, but it's going to load from the sample file if it has any. But I can fine tune in here if I want. Then I have the zones for this particular file, the root key, and then the channel information for each channel of the file. In this case, it's an 8 channel file, so I have information for all the 8 channels. But if I load up just a single channel file, it's going to show just the 2 channels, left and right. But if I want, I can make it mono for both channels. Can just hold Ctrl click and make it mono. So these are the sound details. Now if I go to the preset is a bit different, because it's a synth preset or a sample playback preset. So I have my main stuff in here, like the name of the preset, the author, description, tags, like this preset is going to be a bass preset. Let's see, virtual analog bass, electro. I can put several tags in here. I can add a preset image icon. Then I have a volume, pan, fine tuning, coarse tuning. And then I can have multiple layers on this preset, and each layer can have multiple sound files. So on the layer details here, I have more options. I have again the volume and pen in case I want to adjust layers in a different way. Then I number the voice for this layer. If I'm using glide for the monophonic voice, so if you put 1, it's going to be monophonic, and I can adjust the glide. I have reverse option for this layer. Then I have my zones for this layer. Now I don't have the root key anymore because the root key is on the sound. Then I have the amplitude envelope, the filter. I can have a multi-pass, multi-type filter in here with option of envelope. Then the filter envelope. And then I have 2 Lfos. This is for each layer. So if you're thinking, oh, I need more Lfos, well, you can have more layers that way. And each LFO you have to filter frequency, volume, pen, and the force send effects. And then for last, the sequencer, which I haven't finished yet. But the idea is that you click edit somewhere in here, and it's going to show the steps for the sequencer. This is not a wave sequencer, it's just a sequencer for this layer to allow you to change the pitch, volume, pen, and frequency for each step. Then for each layer, you can have multiple sounds. And the sounds is going to be from the sounds list below. So let's say here I have my 8-channel sound. I don't have any options because the options for the sound is going to be on the sound itself. So this is just linking to the sound of the sounds list. And I can remove this layer, or can remove this sound if I want. Or I can just link a new sound. 8 channels. There you go. It's in there now. So this is it. You have to keep reminding that you have the presets, and then you have the sounds. They are separate from each other. This way you can reuse sounds on multiple presets. It's not like a SFZ file. It's more like a sound font file, but with more options. And then you can save this. If you save this, it's going to save as an editor file because you are on the editor. You can save as a bundle file. The bundle file is going to save the editor file and the samples in a single file. This is not the file you give to people to use. That's going to be the SPX file. That's the one that a user is going to load and play with the sounds. That's the one that's going to be linked to the player if you are distributing the player along, or if you're going to use it in your own code. That's a file you're going to open up and play back the samples. So a few options here are not ready yet. The export is not working yet. The preview is not working yet. And the sequencer is not working yet. And I also have to fix the... Where is it that I've just found out? I don't know where is it anymore. Oh, here, the panning should be fine-tuning, not pan. I'm going to fix that in the code next. And let me see if I remember something. No, that's pretty much it. The player is going to have a nice interface like a Wusik Station X has. So it's going to be a knob and faders interface. It's just the editor has this simple interface because it's easy for me to maintain and also to make it open source. So we just have a fader interface and scrolling of the parameters and stuff like that. So the player is going to have a more synth interface instead. So don't worry about that, because that's I'm going to be working on. And okay, I think I have covered everything. So if you have any questions about this, before I forget, why multiple channel files? The main reason I created this new file with the editor is because I want to sample stuff from the analog domain. So I'm going to get some analog devices like a plate reverb that I'm going to build myself, some springs reverb that I'm going to buy the springs and build the units, and stuff like that I want to record with multi-channels. So let's say I have 2 channels for the synth that I'm playing, 2 channels for the effect 1, 2 channels for effect 2, and maybe even more 2 channels for the insert effect, and have this in a single file. So in the player, you are going to be able to adjust the volumes for each channel for this type of situation. So I'm going to add an option like enable volumes for channel and panning and stuff like that. So then you can load the file that are recorded with multiple analog effects, and then you can adjust the amount of each effect for each of the channels of the sound file. And that's going to really open a lot of possibilities. And I want to make this in a new format, because I want to also add the option to make it be able to link the presets with the sounds and have a single file for everything. And another thing I'm adding is not ready yet, but if you go to the collection, you're going to have an option here for the protection key. So if you want to protect the file with an encryption key, you will be able to do that. So it's not going to be an open file to be converted and open. My own creations are always going to be open, so I'm not going to use that. But I know some people like to use that, so I'm adding this option there. The player scheme, so each preset can change the looks of the player. And also each preset is going to have its own scripting. I'm sorry, just a minute. Let me drink some water. So each preset, I think it's preset layer, if I'm not mistaken. So each preset and preset layer are going to have its own scripting engine, which are going to be adding to the editor as a visual script system. So you're going to have what happens when you play a note, when you release a note, when you send a controller, stuff like that. So you can change the sounds in different ways. So that's going to be also the next step. That's going to be some extra work, but it's going to be great, especially for acoustical sampling playback, for stuff like that has legato and stuff like that. I don't have any ideas here on top of my head to say right now, but we'll see. It's going to be work. It's going to be working great, and it's going to be attached to the final file. Okay, I think I have covered everything. It's a big project. I already have the editor working for most of the stuff. You can see it's working, and you can test yourself. I have added to the release folder of the GitHub. I'm going to add a link to the description of the video, so you can test it out. Just don't make any projects with this yet, because the file format can be breaking, but can change and break your files. So just test it out, save a project, but don't rely on it yet. I already see that I forgot a few things in the file format that I have to fix, but everything's going to be in there soon. Then you can start adding your sounds and remapping stuff up. And I'm also going to add to the documentation for how to rename your files, or how to name your files, so they load up and put the key zones, the velocity zones, their key root automatically just from the file. So something like my sample, then underscore low key zone, high key zone, low velocity, high velocity, and key root. So something like that. I'm going to be adding probably like that. Mostly likely it's going to be like that, and I'm going to be adding to the documentation about this. So when you make your samples, you can already do like this for easier loading into the application later. I don't have a multiple file loading yet, but I'm going to add one. And that's it. So thanks for watching.